Hello, welcome to Podsongs. I'm Jack Stafford, and I interview inspiring people in service to others as inspiration for a new song. While you're listening to today's show, if you could just take the time to rate and review it on your podcast app, click subscribe, that would really help to grow the show. As I interview my guest today, an astrologer and author, metaphysician, representative of the Ethereal Society in Royal Oak, Michigan, let's welcome Chrissie Blaze. Hello Chrissie, welcome to Podsongs.
Hello Jack, I'm very pleased to be here and thank you so much for inviting me back again.
Second time, round
wow,
2.
Yes. How honoured I am.
I think we're going to make it an annual thing. So,
okay, sounds good.
Yeah. So last time you were on, we talked about, I did the song for you, the Mother Earth, and we talked about the Earth in astrology as the hidden planet or the unknown planet in astrology. How would you say?
Yeah, it's the planet that for some strange reason astrologers don't take into account. But if all the classes I've done over the many years, students, when I bring it up, they often say, well, we should take the Earth into account. It's obvious, isn't it? Because it's the closest planet. We live on this planet, gives us everything we need. So also, years ago, when I was very young, I read Alice Bailey's book on esoteric astrology. I don't know if you've read that one, but it's very hard to understand. But one thing, it was actually channeled or it was a telepathic communication, I think, by the master Dwal Kul, who's a member of the spiritual hierarchy. And she actually had channeled or telepathically communicated with, I think, over 20 books. And she was kind of a reluctant medium. She never wanted to do it. But she was approached as a child by a member of the spiritual hierarchy, and they said that they wanted to use her. And she said, no, I'm not interested. And it sort of went on, I think it was about the third attempt. She finally agreed and then got this amazing body of work. Some of the books were written by herself, but this particular one was communicated by this master. And one thing he said in it, I think he said it several times in different ways, that there will come a time when all astrologers will have to take into account the influence of the Earth. And again, he said it in another way, that it's something we have to do. So I always took that to heart and was sort of waiting for someone to write a book. And then one day I had the impression that I had to do it, have a go, because, you know, you're working with the unknown here. There's nothing in astrology that I've come across that talks about the influence. So I believe I was in touch or inspired in many cases by the Master Dwal Kul and also a guide who helped me. But other than that, I was kind of leaping into the unknown and just using my intuition. So I kind of begged other astrologers to come along and add to it, or, you know, and so forth. So that's how the book got started. And that was it. It was supposed to be an astrology book. It ended up being a kind of a much more important book, I think, because it talks about how humanity has lost touch with the Earth on which we live and how we can start to sort of reclaim this connection, which is so vital now, much more than ever before, I think.
Was it ever used in the Vedic times? Because astrology has been going for so long.
Yeah, no, not that I'm aware of, no. I think it says a lot about humanity, don't you? Is that the closest to us we ignore. And now astrologers are going into, the influence of fixed stars and all these asteroids. And okay, it may be important in a way, I don't know, because I haven't gone into them, but just start with the sun. You know, they'll write books about these and ignore the very, very basic things that influence us: the sun, the earth, the moon, the planets in our solar system. So to me, it's like they've kind of gone astray, I feel.
But do they think, like, because the planets are being very basic in astrology here, that they come from different distances to us and in different phases, whereas the Earth's always right under our feet? How does the Earth change through time?
What the astrologers, they don't even take into account the Earth at all. No, they're looking more further out into beyond the solar system and
No, but in your book,
Right,
how
right.
would you use the Earth in astrology?
Yeah, well, it's always opposite the sun, exactly. So you can find out easily where it is. So if you're a Sagittarius, your Earth sign is Gemini, and so on. It's the opposite sign, and it's really kind of
Okay.
like the Dharma. It's like your sun sign is, if you inhabit it, and not everybody does, because it has to be. It's the character building. It's your character, and if you just sort of if you just go through life on a superficial level, you probably never really develop too much character. So that's the sun. Very important to inhabit that, and that's your aspect.
That's your sign of the zodiac, is it?
Sun
The
sign.
sun sign.
And
Okay.
I've written a book about that, superstar signs, and so you inhabit that as fully as you can, and use the power, the creativity, the strength, and it's your aspirations, the aspiration of the soul, if you like. And the earth sign is the power that enables you to put it into manifestation, putting it very, very simply, to ground it, your dreams, your hopes, your creativity. And so, for example, I'll give you an example of me, just because I'm an Aries, so I have to be, if I'm using my sun power, on the edge of life, moving forward, a pioneer. That's the nature of the Aries. But how do I manifest this? Well, I have through my life actually manifested it through promotion, and promotion and public relations. And what is that? Libra is the opposite. So Libra is the one-on-one relationship with people. So this is how I've grounded this sort of pioneering instinct to promote through relating to other people, like a radio show like this, for example. Does that make sense? But this is just one sort of simple example. Yourself, your sun sign, I should know it, is Cancer. So yes. So your other sign is Capricorn, very ambitious, but not in a bad way, but ambitious to keep moving up the mountainside, right? You're prepared to do whatever it takes to make it. And you can be sort of quite humble in that you're prepared to start at the bottom, like an apprenticeship, whatever you're learning, whatever you're doing, you'll start there, you'll learn everything you can, and you don't ever assume you know it all. You always assume that there's more to it. So that will kind of keep you going towards your goals, that ability.
Oh, that's great. Yes, what I'm doing with Podsongs, I mean, it's a lot of work.
Well, the Cancer, of course,
it is starting
has to be your heart desire. The Cancer is what you feel is right for you. It has to be your heart's desire. It has to be a feeling thing. It has to be something that changes as you change, as you evolve. It changes with you. It's an intuitive, a feeling thing too. Sorry, I interrupted.
So your higher self chooses your different star sign of the zodiac that you're going to be born under to help you develop in those areas that you think you need to develop this time around.
Yes. I mean, we do, I know, before we're born, the higher self judges us. We have this time of self-judgment and decides, more or less how we can work out our karma. And people then choose their parents. And I know the master did say, Dr. King said that some people can choose the time of birth and the date of birth, but I'm not sure that everybody can do that, from what he said. So anyway, generally, I think you would try and choose the correct sun sign for you. The time of birth, exactly, I don't know.
And how did you come to the realization that the earth sign is opposite the sun sign?
Well, that's kind of a known fact, actually. The earth is always above us, and we're on the earth. I mean, it's that's known in astrology.
Oh,
I didn't come up with that. I came up with the analysis of it.
Okay, all right. And is there another way that it changes through, or is it just this fixed aspect, or is there other aspects of the earth that should be used in astrology? Just for any astrologers
yeah,
listening.
Possibly. I don't know. This is where I'm hoping that other astrologers might come up with. Mine was just really sort of a way to get things going, if you like. I'm not. I am a technical astrologer, and I learned all the basics. I've studied some years on that, but I'm not really a technical astrologer in the way that some people are. I'm an intuitive astrologer, a spiritual astrologer. So, and it's not something that I use all the time, particularly. I'm much more interested in spirituality, the spiritual sciences, which is one of them, but all of them, rather than just astrology. But it's very, very useful for people.
Yeah. It's maybe because you can predict these things. For example, with prediction in astrology, you see that something big is coming, but you need your intuition to understand, because it could be a myriad of things, no?
Yeah, and I like to think that things aren't inevitable. I mean, certain things will be to a certain extent, but with our own, chart, we can, to a certain extent, change things if we really work at it. As Dr. King taught, everything is not inevitable. Karma can be, as he said, manipulated. People get the wrong impression of that word, I think, but your karma can be transformed by your positive actions today. If you feel, for example, that you have a very difficult career time coming up in 6 months' time, and because of X, Y, and Z or Z, then you can work in a certain way to find out what it is that you're doing wrong and how you can change it. And then that time might come where instead of losing your job, you might get a promotion. It's like you can change it if you really put your mind to it. Not always completely,
yeah,
unless you're a very powerful magician, I suppose, but to a certain extent.
Yeah, I mean, you have such a toolbox at your disposal. It must be daunting sometimes.
What? Seeing what's coming up, or?
Yeah, well, this myriad of things that you're aware of, and
No, I think studying the spiritual sciences makes life simpler, don't you, Jack? I mean, life is complicated without it, to me.
And more power, maybe. I mean, more power, more responsibility, something like that.
I think life is fun.
Does that make sense?
It's far more enjoyable. I know I used to be so depressed about life when I was young and not knowing what life was about. But somehow it becomes very much simpler when you understand that the law of karma is everything, and we're here to advance, and this is one life of many, and all those basic, simple spiritual truths. Simple but complex, but it makes life fantastically exciting. Every day is an adventure, I think, because everything
I definitely
is a sign, isn't it?
I agree with that. I mean, the people say, when you talk to some people and they're not convinced, and then you keep on them, and then finally they say, oh, okay, well, that could be true, but not going to change the way I live. I just I try and be nice to people. I live a happy life. I don't really need to know all about this other stuff. But that argument for ignorance is hard to justify, I find.
Right. Well, I suppose you're planting a seed, and at some time, everybody must become interested in these things, because this is who we are. We are spiritual beings moving through life in a physical temple, if you like, enabling us to do certain things. But it's the spirit that, sorry about that, motivates us, isn't it? And the soul that guides us.
Yeah.
So, it's the same with everybody, but they're not yet recognize. They don't yet recognize that. But something will spark it off, and it could be a conversation with you, or it could be a book they read, or it could be anything. But it will happen to every
a podcast.
A podcast, yeah. This is why it's so important, isn't it, to do these things, to keep talking to people. Everybody, we're all at different, places in our evolution, but sometimes we go backwards and sometimes we go forwards, but as long as we keep trying to communicate with others and help them along, then we're all going hopefully in the right direction. Well, not all of us, but most of us. It's very much a time of change right now, though, isn't it? You can see it so clearly.
It is, definitely, yeah.
And
it's a very karmic time, but also very gentle, no? I mean, because it kind of affects you with the whole COVID, obviously. If anyone's listening to this in a few years and you wonder what we're talking about, there was a big virus. and it affects you to the degree that you want it to affect you. Really, does. If you, maybe because I live in the countryside, I can say these things, but on a mental level, you really concentrate on these things, and it can affect you negatively. But if you use it positively, it can be a great time of growth and development.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. It's true. Anything that sort of changes us, I think, can be a time of growth, however painful it might be. Because I won't say everybody, because in some parts of the world, it's kind of impossible for people to make those changes because they just don't have the basic necessities. But we're very fortunate in the West that we do have those for the most part. And so when we go through changes, we can really learn from them and grow. In fact, I was ill for some years, and I never learned so much in my entire life as that period, which was so difficult and challenging. But wow, I had healers from around the world, from the Ethereal Society and other friends sending healing, which for most of us, we go through life and we want to, if we're kind of slightly spiritually minded people, we want to help others, right? We want to give and help. So having to receive is like a huge shift, and feeling kind of helpless and having to receive is big. It's a big learning experience. And one thing you learn is humility, and compassion for the people that are in the same position as you are or worse. And big lessons like that you learn. So it was a fantastic experience, really fantastic. So did I go off the subject, or is that what we were talking about? Change.
No, I mean, what was it you wanted to talk about today? Because you mentioned it earlier, but
well, I thought we
didn't talk.
I'm sorry. I thought we could talk more about the earth, because it's so vital. And I think this is why so many people are lost, because the connection to the earth that used to be the case when people led simpler lives is lost. And I found through my research that even today, many children and people with young families and so on, they're frightened to take their children out into nature because they're worried about so many things. It could be mosquitoes or whatever. And so there's this kind of fear. And even some children I was reading about in Scientific American said that they didn't want to be away from a plug, a computer, or a cell phone. So they'd rather stay at home watching the video games, etc., than go out into nature. So there's this tremendous disconnect from an early age, and it's very, very vital, because the earth it gives us so much. It's essential. You know about the Schumann's resonance, for example. Have you heard about that? Well, it was found out some years ago that the earth vibrated in had a certain vibration. And it was a Dr. Schumann, not by chance, found that it was 7.8 hertz, right? They think it's probably changed a bit now because of all the microwaves and whatever into the atmosphere, but it was 7.8. And it's at that resonance is when we are kind of attuned to the earth, and it has a very health-giving property. And various scientists did research. One of them, he got volunteers, young, healthy volunteers, to go into a bunker underground for 2 weeks away from the Earth's natural resonance, the Schumann resonance it's called. And he found that these young, healthy people got sick, migraines, not major illnesses, but they felt bad and, not very well, headaches and so on. So when he released them from this bunker, they went back to normal again, so that it has this health-giving property, apart from feeding us and giving us everything we need, water and so on. And also it has a heartbeat. It has in fact, they believe this kind of is the heartbeat. It can breathe. The earth breathes. It's very much a living being. And also they found that when the astronauts went out into space and came back, it really affected their bone density tremendously. And when they introduced a Schumann resonant machine, whatever it's called, into the space station, I think this was the Russian space station, it normalized them again. So this is something
Wow.
that is used now and quite well known. But it's and you can buy music actually where they just play this resonance of the earth, which is supposed to make you feel peaceful and so forth. So that's just one thing that we're out of tune with. But I think the big thing is that we believe that the earth belongs to us, typical humanity, but in fact, we belong to the earth. And I think that's a huge shift in realization. And it brings a certain humility. And I think one thing that's very important for us to gain this relationship, regain this relationship, is our appreciation. If we think of the earth, well, she is, it's proven, she's a living, highly advanced intelligence. Dr. King talks about the logos of earth. He visited the logos of earth in his superconscious projections and has written a book, fantastic book, Visit to the Logos of Earth. It's very real. It's very advanced, very, very advanced, goddess, if you like. And one thing we can easily do, everybody, is just give appreciation, give our thankfulness, because it's like amazing not to, really, because the earth gives us everything we need to go through evolution. It gives us food, water, nourishment, this love vibration. And here we are, just most of us, I'm not talking about, the listeners or anything like that, just trip along through life and think, oh, let me take oil from the earth. Let me do this. And Dr. King always said that even if you climb a mountain, you should ask the diva of the mountain permission. So this constant consciousness of the earth and her kingdom of nature is something so simple and something we all can do. I mean, we know that if you have flowers and plants in the garden and you neglect them, they die. I met Cleve Baxter, the man that actually invented a machine used by the CIA, the lie detector. I can't think of the technical name. And he had laboratories full of plants, and he would do experiments with them. He said if like a spider ran into the room, all the plants would go crazy and into shock because he measured all of the instruments. And he proved that, strangely, that if you give the plant love and put through saying thank you, plant, or whatever you call it, and appreciation, it thrives. And if you say nasty things to the plant, it doesn't do so well, but it carries on. But if you completely ignore it, it dies. And I think that's so interesting because we're all living beings, not just us, but the earth, the kingdom of nature. Every plant, every rock, Dr. King says, has a certain consciousness. Everything is alive in the whole of creation. And everything needs this interchange of energy, doesn't it? And the earth, because it is so great, needs, not for her sake, but for our sake, this interchange of energy. Because it's another truth, isn't it? The law of karma, that what we give out, we get back. And we have been taught that if we send our life through the 12 blessings, for example, to a high being such as the Mother Earth, the mighty sun, the galaxy itself, then that energy is returned, and it's made even greater by having an aspect of that focal point. As we're sending it to the sun, and our energy is returned with an aspect of the sun's greatness somehow. And so it's the same with the earth,
Yeah, I think it helps to understand for me that you had the 9 freedoms. So we know we after we achieve enlightenment and then cosmic consciousness and then ascension, we go into interplanetary existence. We live on other planets, gaining experience all the time, and we merge our souls with a similar soul at certain points, and we kind of grow larger. Until we end up on the sun.
It's a long journey.
And then it's all the time souls merging, no? Eventually to form, it's not said in the 9 freedoms, but so correct me if I'm wrong, but we merge eventually into planets.
Right, yeah. It's hard to think like that, isn't it? It's like
you have to wonder how, Well, I wonder, maybe you can, if it's as above as below, does it take 1,000 plants to make an ant? Does it take 200 ants to make insects to make a bird? Does the consciousness, do the souls and consciousness work that way as well?
I don't know how that works. I do know that, when you see a flock of birds and they will go along exactly together, they have a group consciousness, and animals do, but eventually I think they develop into a unique consciousness, a unique soul kind of thing. But I'm not sure how it works across the species. I've always been interested in that.
Because also just in astrology, they have, I saw some astronomer. Sorry, that's a big insult to say to you or someone. An astronomer. And they give our address. We're in the Milky Way, in this galaxy, in this nebula, in this solar. So we have an address, but they don't realize that we're evolving into, the planets evolve into suns, and suns evolve into systems, and eventually into bigger suns. And there's this. We can all understand evolution, but that there's this. When you look through the Hubble telescope, these amazing pictures and colors, you're seeing conscious beings billions of times further along the path than we are. It gives a whole new perspective, no?
Absolutely, it really does. It makes life, that's what I mean about life being so exciting, because we are always moving through this change, aren't we? Moving through change. And I find in life, and looking at people's charts and so on, if they get stuck for too long, then something comes along to move them. And it seems like a terrible thing, but really it's just part of evolution working out, because you can't just stay in one place for too long, because you're supposed to be moving on. You're supposed to be learning and growing. And I think this is something the planets really help us with. But because we are sometimes just really stuck and we don't want to change, then it feels like really painful when planet Uranus, for example, the planet of sudden change, comes along and hits us. But looking back, we often see, wow, that was great because that moved me into this, which is something better. But yeah, so this evolution is a fantastic thing.
And you think that there's a living being sending you the energy also puts on a different perspective as well, no?
Yeah, what, the Earth, you mean?
The Uranus or another.
Oh yeah,
another planet.
Yeah, the planets, all living, highly advanced living intelligences, forming these wonderful cosmic symphonies, helping humanity, all life in the solar system, to advance, to grow. It's amazing, really. Absolutely amazing. Perfection of it all. And the Earth is just incredible. So I think I just want to say to people, whether you believe it or not, just try it. Go out into nature. The Devic kingdom, that's a wonderful thing that I think a big message to all people in the world is the Devic kingdom is real. It's just as real as humanity, but we can't always see them, but we can feel them quite often. And some people see them, of course, but they're using our energy to create conditions on this earth. So whenever we complain about the weather, as we all do, especially the English, right, Jack, then we just have to realize that we've created this because they just use our energy to create conditions. So if we become conscious, and many people do go out into their gardens and talk to the flowers and all that, and the flowers flourish. My dad was like that. He could get a little twig to grow into a beautiful plant, but he would go, I could see him talking away and all this, sending his love, in other words, appreciation. So this is something everyone can do, and it's so vital that they're all around us, these marvelous beings of all types.
Nature spirits.
Yeah.
These tiny...
Wonderful book by a theosophist called Kingdom of Nature. Have you seen Kingdom of the Gods? I'm sorry.
Great Jeffrey Hodson.
Yeah, and he's written a lot of books. One of them called, really like, Fairies at Work and Play, which sounds not so exciting, but it really is, because he was able to see the divas doing rituals in nature, and he went to different parts of the world and he could see the different levels of divas, from the smallest, the fairies, whatever you call them, right up to the great sort of mountain divas and so on. And he could see them all. And it's very fascinating books, yeah.
Yeah, that was, and the pictures as well is what I wouldn't do to have to see that.
I know. And Dr. King has
Yeah.
a fantastic tape, actually, lecture called The Devic Kingdom. And that's a really, really good one, actually. He goes into,
he could call in a diva to stop a storm. No, I mean, he could give them the energy they need and do a little exchange, and then.
Yeah, I remember one night at the Theory's house in London, he was talking to people about that very experience and how dangerous it was, even for him, to do that. But there was a reason that he had to do it at the time. It was but yeah, not something he would recommend to regular people. But certainly, we can consciously go into nature, and it's this exercise I think we all should do. Probably you do it, Jack, by going out into nature and communing with the divas. Do you feel a result?
Yeah, I don't call any storm divas down, but I prefer the installment payments.
They're not the storm diva, no, but
just the little payments every day.
Not the storm divas, but one thing is just to go out into nature and sort of give thanks to the divas. I know Gary and I went to northern Michigan, and there was a part. There's not many people around, actually. It's quite remote up there, and we went into a piece of a forest where we started to go into it, and we both looked at each other because it's like, go away. It's like not the words, but we've had a strong feeling not to enter, right? They didn't want us to enter because they didn't know about people too much. But anyway, we entered, but immediately started to thank them. And we did the 5th blessing, blessed are the thanksgivers. And we sent energy and love instantly. The energy started to change, took about a minute, I suppose. And the energy then became so amazing that it was like it was like they'd laid down a red carpet for us. It's like, wow, these humans aren't so bad after all. It was absolutely fantastic. The change was dramatic. And I think anyone can do that and prove it to themselves. The divas are real.
I heard you interviewing Alison Lawrence once, I think, and she said that suddenly a carpet of butterflies lifted up. They started
lovely,
giving blessings.
Yeah, beautiful. Yeah. Things can happen. This is why life is so great, because but we are, for the most part, we don't see these things we'd like to see. Sometimes twice I've had a glimpse of a diva. Once has been in a photograph, actually, which Gary took, and it wasn't there when he took it, but in the photograph it appeared, green energy sort of little being. So they are there, they are real. And just realizing that, I think, really makes a huge difference to life, doesn't it?
Yeah, yeah. Also in Ayurveda, Nehemiah Davis, who I've been studying under for a year now, a couple of years, he says that they're everywhere. The doshas are divas in Ayurveda. So that I never really understood that before, but I just thought they were energy.
Oh, I didn't know.
I just thought I just thought they were energies, but he says you can't have an element without a diva there. So
right. Yeah, they're everywhere.
I guess it's like, if you went back 200 years or 300 years and you told people about bacteria, they would think you're pretty crazy, because then you tell them, oh no, they're all in your stomach. They help you. No, in fact, you've got more cells and bacteria in your body than you, and they're all helping you. They're on your skin. They're helping you digest. They do everything. You couldn't live without them. Yeah, you'd get a strange look.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, that's interesting. Absolutely. I find it interesting. That's an interesting point, because when you talk to people about slightly unusual things like UFOs, or they're not really unusual now, but extraterrestrials living on Earth. Even Helen Sharman, the first British woman astronaut, said she believes they're living on Earth here. Now, you talk to people and they seem to believe it, I find. Everyone I talk to, they believe that. Great concept. But it doesn't go any further. And this is why it just came to me, this is where the influence of the Earth comes in. Because many people say they believe things. Oh, yeah, I think I believe that. But nothing is ever done about it. And to me, the best way if you have a thought that's a really interesting thought, you've never really thought about it before, like extraterrestrials are living here among us, then to me, just put it to the test, research it, study it, see what it feels like. And that's like using the earth energy, I think. I've only just realized that. What do you think?
What does it mean in the fifth blessing where Master Jesus says, blessed are the thanksgivers because they have expended enough time and energy to become aware of the devic kingdom?
Yeah, I think about that one.
Does that mean that they've, like you're exactly what you're saying, that they've put in enough time contemplating and sending out energy and opening themselves up to this?
I do. And I suppose in a way you could say we are thanksgivers, but they do expend great tides of energy. So, but suddenly people or beings who've, expended a lot of energy in that direction and are working hard in that direction. But we're sort of starting on that path, I would say. Wouldn't you say that? Giving thanks.
So when you send energy to the thanksgivers, it's just sending it to the people who can psychically see them? Or?
Well, I think anyone who's actually doing the fifth blessing in a way, and anyone who's sending out prayers to the divas and sending out thanks to the divas to a certain extent, to a small extent, I suppose they're on that path towards becoming a thanksgiver.
We need Richard here. He would have he'd have some, but it's a whole tantric exercise, isn't it? The 12 blessings is it's spells within spells.
Exactly, yeah.
For energy transfer, so yeah.
Yeah, we have realizations. The more you study it, the more you do it, the more realizations come. Exactly. But I have thought a lot about that one, and I'm sort of still thinking about it. But I think it's a path we're on. I mean, it is the path we're on. But I imagine the thanksgivers would be pretty advanced people who spend a lot of time working with the earth and so forth.
Because the third blessing, blessed are they who love, is not the people who are sending Valentine's cards to each other or trying to seduce their neighbors. It's the cosmic lovers that are doing a work with love energy.
And this is what it is. I agree. A fascinating thing about the 12 blessings, because there's so many fascinating things, but the more you do it, the more you become that, if you like. Because the more you send it out, the more you're sending out true love through the blessings. And so some of it will come back to you, which is what we were talking about earlier anyway. But then you become that, if you like. So with all the blessings, I suppose. Blessed are certainly the first few blessings,
If anyone listening wants to go to the 12blessings.org, 12 the number, 12blessings.org, there's a Chrissie, you're reading, you hold services every week, no, from Michigan branch?
Yeah, about once every couple of weeks, yeah. But there's services almost every day that are held.
Every day, yeah. You can listen there, you can get the prayer sheet.
Yeah, for different situations in the world. Like we recently did the COVID-19 crisis in India. I did prayers for Israel and Palestine and various places, things that come up that are very, very serious. And people get together from around the world, which is fantastic. Many different countries join together in this kind of circle of light. And so great please do join us if you can. It's just about half an hour, isn't it?
Oh yeah, it flies by, and it's an update to the Sermon on the Mount. It was channeled by Dr. George King through the Master Jesus.
Yes, the 12 blessings in 1958 over 12 consecutive Sundays. It was channeled by the great avatar of love, Jesus, to give his, as you say, continuation of the Sermon on the Mount, to include a cosmic concept for this age, because we're now in this age of science. And I had a thought about that too, because the Master Jesus obviously began the Piscean age, right, which is the age of love and sacrifice and so on.
Right.
And I believe our master, Dr. George King, was the master, the avatar for this age, the age of science. And I love the quote from the Master Jesus when he said, a warmth, science is like the soulless wanderer in the realms of night, but a warmth will come out of love to fashion it into a tool. And you can see that because everything is about science now, but it can be very cold. But I think I feel that the one master from one age, like Master Jesus, is like handing the baton to the next master for the next age. But nothing is lost from the previous age, if you know what I mean. So this baton is a baton of love to hand it over to our master, who also was a being of love, but of science, to hand it over to imbue that science with this love. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's going back to astrology. Like, we're born in this lifetime. I'm born as a Cancer, so next time I'll take all of this. I'll learn from it, and I'll be born in the next life in a different sign, and then I'll take what I have from that, and I will grow using that slowly.
Yeah, isn't that so hopeful that we don't sort of have to die and then lose everything that we learned? We keep it all. We lose our memories of the past life until we reach a point where it's important for us to remember certain lives for certain reasons, and that's something we shouldn't do, is to tell other people who they were in past lives. But we take with us everything we learned, and also all our good deeds, but not our money.
Karmic bank account.
Not our money, not the things that we tend to think many people think are the most important things, but and our love, our relationships, people we love, and so nothing is lost.
Yeah, just going back to the 12 blessings. Richard Lawrence told me that that it was Dr. King who fashioned it into a tantric practice that we could do in 20 minutes. So you send energy to the focal point of each prayer. You start at I'm going to say at the bottom, but it's not really way above me. But to those who work for peace, and to those who...
Well, you are one of those people, aren't you? So,
in a small way.
But we send it, but we're also become a part of that and a stronger part of that blessing.
And then the next time, then you send it to them, and then you get an energy beam back, and then you send it to the ascended masters.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
The wise ones, and then they send some back, and then it goes up and up, and you go to the sun, and then you go to the galaxy, and then you go to the supreme lords of creation, and then finally the 12th blessing, the absolute. So you get this kind of, it's a tantric transaction, or the specially formulated magic spell.
Yeah, that was quite an inspiration by Richard to realize that, I think. But if you think about it, it's what I was saying about how the Master Jesus handed over his baton of love, if you like, to our master to fashion it into a tool. And that's exactly what our master did with the 12 blessings, isn't it? So it's like this merging of the ages. We're on the cusp of both ages. But I think because astrology goes backwards, right? Pisces is the last sign. Then it's this love that the Master Jesus introduced, true love, will continue through all the ages, all the future ages. Has to, doesn't it? It's obvious.
Yeah. I was contemplating on some of the things Dr. King did, and maybe because he was in an earth body at the time, maybe for karmic reasons, they passed down things which he could complete. So they must have foreseen that he was going to do that, but he clicks it, and then so that's a kind of everything, because everything's karmic manipulation in the great cosmic chess match. Yeah,
exactly. Great thing about Dr. King was he really understood the law of karma and knew how to use it. Wow. Yeah, it's fantastic. That's another thing I think is so vital for everybody to realize, and so exciting. This is a very exciting thing, the law of karma, isn't it?
Yeah, oh yeah.
That we can change our lives and other people's lives through manipulating this great law, which we do anyway, every day, through every breath and every thought and every word we say.
Yeah, it's a really positive way to look at it. Instead of I'm a victim of my karma, is I'm writing my karmic pattern every moment of every hour of every day.
Yeah, absolutely. I really don't like the victim mentality at all. I don't like it. I never want to have it. I don't like it when I see it. It's like, oh no, we're not victims. We're in control of our lives. We're masters to a certain extent. Well, we should be.
Oh yeah.
This great law is there for us to learn about and to use, which we do anyway, but to really, really learn about it. I love Dr. King's little book called Karma and Reincarnation. I'm sorry, just called, now I remember what it's called. Karma and Reincarnation, the little purple book. It's just a few dollars, but tremendous jewels about the law of karma in that book. Tremendous jewels. About the fact that there is a vein of compassion within the law of karma. I really like that. That was quite a revelation to me.
Yeah, you can't be. No one can forgive you your sins, but if there can be manipulations that they can take off some of the weight now or postpone it. Is that right? Is that a better way of saying it?
Yeah, and I suppose that's why the law can be manipulated, because there is this vein of compassion. Because it wasn't the old sort of Indian concept of the karmas. Well, that's your karma, and that's it.
Yeah.
Whereas having this vein of compassion, which has always been there, obviously, the great ones realized that they could use that to manipulate it in a positive way. I think that's such a revelation, really. And that's come into astrology too, actually. In the last few, decades, 50 years or so, round about the time when the master was coming along and talking about the law of karma. Now there's this branch of astrology called karmic astrology, which again used to be like fatalistic, but now isn't. Well, depending on the type of astrology you use.
You also, did you write a book about that as well?
I did an ebook, yeah.
Okay, right. And just going back to the 12 blessings as well, there I just remember that there's the violet flame practice in that as well. So that's the Mother Earth helping us do these practices.
Oh, the violet flame is amazing. It comes from the Mother Earth, as you know, whenever we request it. And it's very protective, mystic practice. And it used to be used by the spiritual hierarchy of Earth and only available in the ancient mystery schools. And it's been a closely guarded secret for thousands of years. But of course, in this Aquarian age, the secrets are being revealed, and they will more and more and more. But in this Aquarian age, it was first introduced to the world by the master Aetherius and through Dr. George King. But it's something so simple, isn't it, Jack? And something everyone should use. And absolutely everyone. And we should just go through it. Do you think, Jack? Just quickly go through it.
Oh,
it's one of the most important things ever, isn't it? And let me just quickly explain it, and then I can guide you in taking it through you, because it's important. We first of all, we visualize it coming up through the earth beneath our feet, and visualize the beautiful, soft violet flame. But when we say flame, we think of heat. It's actually a cool flame, and it cleanses and transmutes not just the physical body, but the aura, the lower energies in the aura. And it purifies and strengthens us. And this is so important, especially in these days of increased sort of electromagnetic fields and microwaves and so on. Because anything that is not so good in the aura that we pick up in the aura, we can pick up from other people or whatever, or our own thoughts and so on. This can help to transmute it and strengthen the aura. And any disease, nearly all disease, starts in the aura. So this can help to kind of clear things to a certain extent if we do the practice often enough with as much love and focus and concentration as we can. We can strengthen our auras and protect ourselves at this time. So very, very important. So let's join with it, shall we, Jack?
Yeah.
So
let's do it.
You can either do it standing up, or you can do it sitting down. Or the best way actually is to do it if you can stand in nature, or in your garden, or in a piece of nature. But whatever it is, you want to put your feet flat on the floor, standing or sitting. And then just keep the spine straight if you're sitting. And then think downwards to the Mother Earth and think of her as a great living intelligence, and humbly request from this great goddess, which she is, her violet flame, and allow it to come up through and around your physical and auric body and take it right up as high as you can see it go, some 30 or 40 feet above the head if you can. And just feel this beautiful, cleansing, protecting flame coming right up through you, a beautiful violet color. And you can do this. This is a very simple, quick practice. You can do it in a few seconds. At first, you may find it difficult because you can't see it. Some people see it immediately. Some people never see it. It doesn't really matter. Other people feel it. So if you do it often enough, and don't expect to feel it and see it immediately, but just keep doing it a couple of times every day, and after a while you will begin to feel it, even to see it. Some people smell it even as a beautiful fragrance, because whether you believe it or not, it is real. And clairvoyants have seen other people doing it. I've seen animals doing it. It's a natural part of life, and it's something we're supposed to do, I think. It's like a velvety flame, and if you don't know the color violet, it's kind of a vibrant shade of a bluish purple, would you say?
Yeah, I help to Google. It helps to Google it just before you do the practice. That may sound a bit silly, but because sometimes it's difficult to visualize a color just in your mind. Yeah. But and there you can see. Then you can just have it in your head just before you do the practice. And personally, because I did a lot of Vipassana meditation, and I'm not very advanced in other areas, but I've sensitized kind of my top lip just from sitting down for hours on a day concentrating on respiration, and so I feel sensation on just under my top lip.
Oh, really? Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, it's just you should feel it over your whole body, but I'm just not very advanced. So, but I know, I get the soft feeling under the nostrils and on the top lip.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, I mean, a long time before I could see it, really. I tend to feel things more, so it doesn't matter. But just have faith that it is there. It will come if you request it. So, as I say, it's almost like I look at it as a psychic shower, if you like. You have a shower to clean your body, but this is like a way of cleansing and uplifting, spiritually uplifting the aura and the body as well. And it's just, you might think, oh, that's so simple, it's so easy, but don't be fooled by its simplicity. It's a flame of great power, which comes from the very logos, the heart of this living intelligence, this advanced living goddess. Every time you invoke it, through your creative faculty, through your imagination, if you like. But when what you visualize is real, So it's
we do a lot of these practices, like mantra actually makes your aura spin.
Yeah.
And that throws off the dross. So that's cleansing. When you do pranayama, nadi shodhana, it unblocks your nadis and starts cleansing. So all these practices, if you come down to their essence, in one respect, they are just about getting back to what you should already be like, not being psychic is a limitation. People who have some psychic abilities are just slightly less disabled than you and I,
I don't have too many. I mean, I feel things, but only occasionally have I seen people who've passed on, very occasionally, when I've needed to, strangely enough. So, or it can be a big distraction to some people, I find. So
I would be worried. I'm, doing all these practices. I do worry that when they do develop, and then you can see dead people, as to quote the film.
Yeah, it was strange. Yeah. One day, I don't know if it was I was in a flat in Los Angeles, Gary and I, and Richard was coming over for a meal. He was in LA at the time, and we opened the door of the flat where we were, and this man walked across the room, and all three of us looked at each other, and we all saw him. Clearly a man walking across the room, physical like you and I. And the strange thing is that we all saw him at the same time. Now, I thought, I don't usually see people. Gary does occasionally. Richard does a lot. So maybe very strange.
And he just walked through the wall? Or?
No, he walked through the room, and through the wall, I suppose. It kind of worried me since I was living in the...
Yeah.
No, I mean...
I'd be nervous, because yogis that can turn it on and off, with your third eye. But in those early stages of development, you must just...
Yeah, so sometimes...
You must be open to everything, yeah?
Yeah, sometimes they seem to come when you least expect them. And sometimes it's...
Which is when I'm going to the bathroom in the middle of the night, which is not really what I want.
Yeah. A good thing is to remember to use your peripheral vision too, which we don't really use too much now. But that's often where you see...
there's a mirror practice Nehemiah was telling me about. If you stare at a mirror, you can see your aura. If you just, really concentrate, and use your peripheral vision.
Yeah. That's something very important. You know how often we see things out the corner of our eye and then it's gone? That probably was some kind of psychic phenomenon.
Really?
Yeah. But the minute we try and stare at it, it disappears, right?
That's great. It's great speaking to you, because I'm, I don't want these cities they're not something you should crave, but they're just sort of your natural development. But, speaking to ordinary people, not speaking to you, we limit ourselves, but speaking to you, and also in the different groups that I'm online, it helps to open up so that you're more accepting of it, that these possibilities, no?
Yeah, exactly. I think everyone would be interested if they, found the right people to talk to and the right things to read. And it's like an educational process. And I think it's so important. I think they should teach in schools sort of things like this: karma, reincarnation, healing, prayers, like all these, and ethics and all these important things.
But once you're interested, it will come to you naturally. Like, obviously, you were very lucky because you got to serve Dr. King and work in the Aetherius Society. I mean, obviously, you had to sacrifice a lot, but you really craved it, so the universe had to give it to you, Is that right?
Yeah, well, I was born into my aunt and my great aunt and my cousin. It's like 3 generations. We're all members of the Aetherius Society at one time. So they I kept hearing growing up, Dr. King, Dr. King, Dr. King, and had to find out more. So I was very lucky like that.
I remember the story that how you got into the society was your cousin said the holiest being you'll ever meet is under your feet.
Yeah, because I was working in a theological college with all these professors of theology, and I was interested in that, but I could never quite work out the nature of God, and that was the moment when it really hit me. And then
just one sentence. Yeah.
I know I had read the 9 Freedoms before, and also I'd read the 12 Blessings, but somehow it didn't. It has to hit you. And maybe I'm a slow learner. I don't know, but it took me a while. It's just those seeds, isn't it? You never know what you say to somebody, how it might awaken something within them. So anyway, I think we've gone on too long, probably, Jack.
Oh no. Well, it's been great, and
great.
I think so many strands of what we're saying. We just kept coming back to the Mother Earth. So really can see that you have such a strong connection there, as Dr. King did himself.
Yeah, well, we all do, don't we? It's just how that appreciation and our love, and she will the violet flame. Everything, something everybody can do, and everybody can do. So beneficial.
Because the holiest day in our calendar is it's July the 8th. No, is that right?
Yes.
Good. I'm glad I got the date right.
The day,
and that's when the Earth received her initiation, primary initiation, halfway through her life.
I don't know about the halfway through her life. I don't know exactly, but certainly it was a very, very important day in her life so far, in her evolution. And it's an important day for every life stream on Earth. But she has been forced to, because of humanity, backward humanity, to release her great initiatory energies slowly. Well, I mean, she's offered to release them slowly because of her great compassion for us. Because if she just released them instantly, we'd all be thrown off the earth, This was a great moment in our history, in the history of the earth, but she's had to hold her initiation in abeyance because of her compassion. So that one thing alone, I think we need to give thanks every day for.
Yeah, because she should really be the planets like Saturn, or is that a gaseous planet? Is that
which planet?
My astronomy here, or many of the other planets are gaseous. Yeah, they're not physical in this realm. They're more highly evolved.
Oh, yeah.
So
well, actually, on Tuesday, Richard and I are doing Aetherius Radio Live, and we're talking about the initiation of the solar system. So when the solar system itself received a great initiation, but not the Earth because of us, So that was sad, which meant the raising of life on all the other planets, which is one reason, I think, why we can't see life on the other planets.
Oh, people must check out Aetherius Radio Live. That's my favourite podcast.
Oh, really? Oh, yeah, it's great. Richard is fantastic. I mean, he really is.
And so people can find out more from Aetherius Radio Live, or you'll have your own podcast, which is available on Body, Mind, Spirit Radio.
Yes, Aquarius Rising. I'm changing the name though, so it's not just astrology now. It's all the spiritual sciences. I actually did one on Tuesday about life after death, which is an interesting, one of my favourite topics.
Is it available on all the podcast apps? Because I did look for it and I couldn't see it.
No, probably not, because I don't do anything technical, I'm afraid. So it just sits there.
It's so easy. I'll talk to you afterwards, you have to share that. And your website is Astrology City? Is that right?
astrologycity.com. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right.
Thank you so much, Jack. It's always a pleasure to talk to you.
Oh, the pleasure is all mine.
And I think you said you have another song coming, so look forward to that, because you're so prolific and so creative, and your songs are wonderfully uplifting, I think.
Thank you. Well, the Violet Flame, is the next song.
Fantastic.
So I've already written it, so just putting the final touches to the production. So this is fantastic. I mean, to do an interview now, talking to you without having to write a song it's just podcasts just so easy when you don't have to do any work afterwards. I don't know how.
Perhaps you should just do it once a month or something.
No, it's actually easy to do more. Work harder. But I'm almost got an album of songs about the Aetherius Society, which I'll be releasing soon as well.
Oh wow, fantastic!
Yeah,
you're amazing. Look forward to that, Jack.
Thanks. Oh, you've inspired two of them, so I'll definitely speak to you next year. Get you on for third time.
Really look forward to that. We'll have a great rest of this year, and probably speak to you before then. But thank you very much indeed. You take care.
All right, my pleasure. Take care, Chrissie.
Bye.
The holiest being that you'll ever meet is right there below you, under your feet. She hides the beauty of her true life under material form, to render to her sustenance until we return. But we don't honor her name, we defile and defame and involve ourselves over again, and bring up the violet flame, transmute the dross in this frame, while we scar her body and we cause her pain, still she gets a violet flame. Guns, she refused, so we can gain experience on our way back to God. She has not yet demanded that we change or leave, but we don't honor her name, defile and defame, involve ourselves over again, bring up the violet flame, transmute the dross in this frame, we scar her body and we cause her pain, still she gets the violet flame. To bring up the violet flame, protection of power retain, she gives this willingly without a claim. Love is a violet flame.
silent and solemn sacrifice, while we dam her arteries, cut chunks out of her flesh, commit foul acts against this angel, the very being that sustains us. When her children ask her, still she gives her flame of transmutation. Bring up the violet flame, transmute the dross in this frame. But we scar her body and we cause her pain, till she gives her violet flame. So bring up the violet flame, protection of power again. She gives this willingly without a claim. London is a violet flame. London is a violet flame. London is a violet flame. Well, I hope you enjoyed that. It's available on Spotify, iTunes, Deezer. In a couple of weeks, I'm trying to stagger the releases so people come here to listen to the songs first. Thank you to Peter Pasanik from Austria, who played sitar on that song, and to Maurizio San Nicola, Massimino Vozza, and Luigi Falcioni, the other musicians. And I'd also like to thank my researcher, Dori Verbo, without whom I couldn't do this show. And thanks to you, the listener. Please share the show with your friends, the song, do everything you can to help promote the show. I'd really appreciate it. Alright, take care, have a great day.